How's everybody doing? My name is Jonathan May, and above me, I don't know if he's above you on the video you guys are watching, or to the right, to the left, downward, whatever, but this is Jason Galt.
I come from all angles.
That's right. So I've known Jason for a long time. Me and Jason went to way before high school. That was like elementary. We went to elementary together, Jason.
I met you in third grade.
Yep. That was a long time ago.
Wayne Academy.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about how the MCU and Disney got everything right and how the DCEU so far has completely screwed the pooch.
Okay.
So I guess I'll start and kind of just start the discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, it was back in 2008. Seems like forever ago. But
yeah.
They started off with Iron Man. What is it?
I was a freshman in college.
Yeah, we were both. Oh, yeah, we both were freshmen in college at that time.
Yeah, that's right.
So they released the first Iron Man movie. And believe it or not, at that time, Iron Man was not a mainstream character. Most people did not know who Iron Man was.
Yeah, he's a B-list.
Yeah, and they at that time, that's what there was a lot of articles at that time that came out talking about how it wasn't Disney at that point, it was Marvel Studios, and they were talking about how Marvel doesn't own the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, so they're going to use their D-listers to make an Avengers movie. And at that time, yeah, sure, the Hulk was pretty big, but even the Hulk's rights were tied up at that time in Universal. But anyway, Iron Man came out, phenomenal movie. Couldn't have asked for a better stepping stone to begin your universe in.
Yeah.
And what did you think about Iron Man?
I remember being blown away in a movie theater. I remember being hearing Shield in a theater and people going what's Shield? And me being that's a lot to explain, but it's this. And then seeing Sam Jackson say the Avengers Initiative, I squealed in a movie theater. So
yep.
They had it was weird talking about DC because 2008, let's just talk about what a banger it was for comic book movies. Iron Man 1 comes out. I believe Iron Man 2 is also in 2008, and Hulk and The Dark Knight. So it was this birth of the comic book movie happened in 2008. So it was amazing.
100%. Yeah, The Dark Knight. I mean, man. So at that point, DC was doing great with their Batman universe, right?
Yes.
It was only a trilogy of movies. It wasn't like they were spitting out, movies like we see today. But yeah, that was a phenomenal trilogy. And
they were very contained. It was just Batman. There was no mentioning of Superman or of Aquaman, or it was just it was very serious. I remember thinking, man, this is really earnest.
In some ways, that might have been that might have helped that trilogy out, because they didn't have to tie themselves down to, oh, don't forget to mention Aquaman here. And later on at the end of the movie, we're going to have a post-credit sequence with Superman and blah, blah, blah. But the Dark Knight trilogy, I can't speak highly enough about it. Phenomenal movies. The third one started to take a dive a little bit there.
No, we're not going to get into that one, Jonathan.
We'll save that one for another video. I think that's a whole nother video in itself for me and you. But so, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Dark Knight Rises is still a good film.
Yeah, no doubt.
But compared to the quality and the bar that was set by the first two films, it's definitely a step down. But we'll save that one for another time.
Yeah, we'll agree to disagree.
Right? So, yeah, Iron Man comes out. Like I said, they couldn't have asked for a better first movie in their movieverse. And at that time, they had smaller goals. Their goal at that time was to release all these individual movies, 4 movies, and then culminate everything in the Avengers movie. And for us at that time, that was huge. We had never seen anything like that. it was only 10 years ago, Jason. And
I know, wild.
yeah, at that time, something like that seemed crazy. But here we are now, fast forward 10 years later. Not only do we have 23 movies that are like, all interwoven with each other and sequels, basically, but now we're starting to branch off into Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. And recently with, did you watch Loki?
I did.
The multiverse is real, right?
It's here. Yeah, we got a multiverse of madness. So
the possibilities are literally endless.
Yeah,
literally,
absolutely.
So let's go. Let's take a few steps back. So things are going pretty well for Marvel. They released, first you got Iron Man, then after that, the Incredible Hulk, which was, I personally like that film, but a lot of people, it was kind of iffy.
Well, Edward Norton is just a different actor than Mark Ruffalo. Like, I mean. So that hurts it going forward. It doesn't feel like the same movie because it's not the same actor.
Yeah, in some ways, even though they brought.
And we're in the first movie, switching Rhodey was not as big of a deal as switching, like, if in the first film Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man, and in the second film Tom Cruise it would have been a giant jump.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm doing a lot with my hands because it's on video. It's very strange. I feel like that.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands. But yeah. So I think that hurts that film. But I mean, I remember I was in Chicago at the time. I saw this with some friends in Chicago that weren't comic booky. And I remember seeing Tony Stark at the end with the suit and being like, we can catch him or whatever. And me going like, So.
Oh, you mean like towards the end of Iron Man?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was towards the end of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, where he shows up and talks to the wall.
That was another thing. Yeah. Marvel started that. Post-credit sequences, they were pioneers in that. That's another thing that now every comic book movie does it. Sony, DC, but at the time, Marvel were pioneers in that too. So Incredible Hulk comes out and it's kind of shaky. I think immediately after that was Iron Man 2, which was another film that was a little shaky. It made a lot of money and people loved Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. At that point, he was already held at a high regard. But, so they had a shaky start. But the thing is, they stuck with it. Right.
And something strange was happening around Iron Man 2. I don't know how this happened or when it happened, but Marvel went from being this kind of niche, like weird product out here to being like pop culture. Like my mom knows who my mom knows who Tony Stark is. Like Groot. The other day, Mom was like, "Oh, we should get Abigail this Groot toy. She would love it." And I'm like, "My mom knows who Groot is." So, yeah. Shout out to Groot. But I feel like that was kind of around Iron Man 2. Maybe Thor makes that weird. Like, I don't know how it happens either. It just seems like all of a sudden, like, athletes start talking about Thor and like doing Avengers style like celebrations, and it's just wild. Now,
personally, I think that it became mainstream more after the first Avengers movie. But Thor comes out, great movie. They took a risk with that one too, with Chris Hemsworth. He was unknown at that time. Captain America comes out, and at that point
they recast the Human Torch. Like that was, I remember seeing that and being like, the Human Torch is Captain America? Like wild.
Yeah, that was another thing that was controversial at the time. And just like when you look back at Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker, at that time, there was an outcry of people like, are you kidding me? The guy from Brokeback Mountain, you're going to cast him as the Joker, and
now, that being said, there was the same outrage when Jared Leto was cast as a Joker, and maybe that was right.
It's not really Jared Leto's fault, Jason.
Oh, Jonathan, I can't wait till we get to this part of the show because it is.
Creatively, you know, a lot of decisions were made.
They were.
More specifically, the decision to put a tattoo across his forehead that said "damage."
Damage.
As if
you don't know how hard it is not to curse at this point.
Yeah, it's disappointing. So we'll start to
darn
build towards
stupid,
that.
Jonathan.
As of now, so let's move into 2012. Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while all this is going on and MCU starts to build up towards the Avengers, what happens with DC? They release Green Lantern. That was kind of their first attempt at creating a shared universe, you know, because there was in that movie, there was a post-credit sequence that was going to build towards Sinestro and
the Yellow Lantern.
So tell me what you think.
I took a girl to see that movie. I went out on a date to see that movie. And I remember being like, they're not all like this, I promise. It's like comic books are serious. Please.
It was bad.
It was bad.
I went to go see it with a buddy of mine, and we both hated it.
I think about the time he made the race car track to catch the helicopter, I wanted to set myself on fire in the movie theater. So, which is a reasonable response, I think, to that. So,
pretty much. Yeah, it was bad. You know, you can't really say the casting was bad. Ryan Reynolds is a good actor. I thought he fit the role well. You know, he fit the character of Hal Jordan, in my opinion. Didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
To me, it was all about the script, the creative decisions that were made, and there was some cool things about that movie. I mean, I'm not trying to listen. I'm not trying to say in any way that movie is good. They just had some unique ideas. I thought even the CGI suit, I didn't mind that much. I didn't think it looked terribly fake. But don't get it twisted. I'm not saying in any way this movie is good at all. It's terrible. But there were some things, you know, like Ryan Reynolds, the suit, like some of the, you know, but yeah. So DC at this point, we're starting to, you know, that was their first attempt at their multiverse, and it really just went downhill.
It felt like a movie by committee. Like, I remember thinking, like, a bunch of people were like, wouldn't it be cool if he called a helicopter with, like, a race car, and then he makes a giant fist, and then this happens, and, well, what if we did this? We got to tie in this. So I feel like that is the beginning of the end, because they countercorrect, and they give Snyder the keys to their entire universe, which I think was a giant mistake.
Well, when you look at Zack Snyder,
we'll get into that later.
When you look at Zack Snyder, they should have known better, because he has some phenomenal movies with 300. Even before then, I think he had a couple others that were bangers.
He did Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, right?
I remember thinking was good until I recently rewatched it, and I was like,
no, it's a good movie. I love that movie. But then he had, for every 300, there was also a Sucker Punch, right? Watchmen was good. I enjoyed Watchmen. I thought that's a good film. It had some interesting.
I love the book so much. I think they were like, I remember when I heard they were doing a Watchmen movie. I saw the preview for it opening night at Dark Knight, and I remember looking at my buddy and going, "There's no way they can do that." And I was correct, because there's not a way that it can do that.
It was a 3-hour film. They did what they could in 3 hours, but
the book is so much better.
I'm sure it is. Hey, I haven't personally read the book, so, you know, just coming from a fan that likes comic book movies, when I saw the film in theaters, I didn't love it at first when I first saw it, but over time I started to appreciate it more and more and more. And now I would rank it, you know, pretty high. I don't really include that with my rankings for you know, Avengers, but it's a good film. So we're kind of right now at a point where Avengers comes out. Meanwhile, you know, you got Green Lantern and things like that for DC. So then Marvel starts to go into their phase 2, right? You got Iron Man 3, good
which
film.
I was very disappointed in. Very disappointed in. Very disappointed in.
So tell me why
I nearly got up and walked out of Iron Man 3. The Mandarin twist was enough to make me get up and almost walk out of the theater. I was like, that's so dumb. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we? It'd be like in a Batman movie if they were like, there's this villain named the Joker, and it turned out to not be the Joker. Like, it's the same thing on the same level. I thought it was scary.
That goes back to me being someone who doesn't read very many comic books, first of all. Second of all, definitely never read Iron Man. So I didn't even know who the Mandarin was. The only reason I knew a little bit about the Mandarin before the movie came out, because at that time I was starting to follow these comic book movie news websites and things like that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin. And, you know, I mean, I personally didn't mind the twist. I know that's controversial, especially among the pure Marvel fans, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was at the time that Iron Man 3 came out, me and like probably my friend Tyler Jackson and my friend Tim Watkins, who you got to get on the show, by the way. He can work clean. He's done it before. We were probably spending close to like $400 to $500 every week on comics. Like we had pull list upon pull list. And at that time I was also working at a comic book shop. So it was a wild time. Like I was reading all the comics I could get my hands on. And then that happened, and I was like, what are you doing, Disney? You did the Avengers and everything was perfect, and now you're doing this?
Well, you have to understand that decisions have to be made. You can't keep things just like the comic books.
No, I know that.
I mean, you know, for instance, the X-Men, I kind of get why they didn't do the bright yellow, even though nowadays they could probably find a way to make that work, I think. Because we as an audience accept these things a little more now than we did 10 years ago, like bright yellow costumes with blue. That's something we might could get behind now, as opposed to 10 years ago where we had to change everything to look like Neo from the Matrix, right?
It needs to look like Batman.
Yeah. So
I remember my mom and dad took me to see X-Men. The first X-Men 2001. I was like 13 years old. And they make that
2000, 000.
2000, I was 12. So my parents took me to see this movie. And I remember they make that joke about yellow and blue spandex. And I'm just like, my mom said that she could hear me go. Because I grew up on the cartoon too. And like, yeah, give me yellow and blue spandex. I would have liked it.
I don't know. Like, I wonder if that would have worked then. Like I said, now I think there's a way that they could make it work. You know, it'd have to be some type of hybrid suit, like they kind of what they did with Captain America's suit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But they can make it work these days, I think. And I think that Marvel is going to do that or something close to that.
They better.
When they reboot the X-Men.
They absolutely better.
But they didn't always have yellow and blue. Was it? There was other costumes.
In the first comics, I think it was like dark blue and maybe just like yellow belts or something. I remember. But I mean, I never read the X-Men a lot as a kid. Like the comics I read as a kid were like your Spider-Mans and your Batmans. Yeah. What got me into X-Men was the cartoon. Yeah.
I watched that too growing up. That was Saturday morning cartoons.
Me and Abigail still watch that.
Yep. It's a
every
good show.
Saturday morning.
It holds up.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
But so meanwhile, what else happened in 2013, Jason Galt? The release of DC's first interconnected movie as a part of their DCEU, Man of Steel.
Yeah, Jonathan, that happened.
So this is another, so it's one of those things. 50% of the people that watched that movie hated it, and 50% of the people that watched it loved it. I
hated it. I hated everything about it. And the more I think about it, the more I hate it.
Still.
Yeah. I will keep it clean. I will keep it clean, but let's just go through the list.
So there's no redeemable qualities about that movie at all.
There's some good looking shots. Like, I can look past the fact that, yeah, he has a cape on. Even though he has no idea why he has a cape on. Like, I thought that was touching. But everything else in that movie is just edgelordy at best.
What'd
At
you say,
worst,
Ed
mixed
Shorty?
up. It's edgelordy. It's super edgy. It's got to be so
Okay.
edgy. Jonathan Kent's going to suggest that Superman let an entire school bus full of children drown. And Jonathan Kent's going to suggest that Superman let him die in a tornado. And Zod's going to get his neck broken. And kryptonite is actually air. It's not an actual crystal, even though we're going to retcon that to no degree in the next movie.
Okay,
It's
time out. What are you talking about with the kryptonite thing? What is that?
Well, do you remember his weakness was he wasn't used to Krypton's atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that was kind of their way they introduced kryptonite in without introducing the actual mineral of kryptonite. I think that was the plan, and I think a lot of people had problems.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jason. Okay,
Well,
let's go back. Okay,
they take him on the ship.
let's go back. Yeah, I know. Okay, whatever. Listen. Okay, first of all, okay, Jonathan Kent was suggesting not that he let the kids die just to let them die, but he thought his son's secret was so important that not only would he possibly let a bus full of kids die just to keep it a secret, but also let his own father die to keep that secret, because he thought it was so important that that secret be kept, because he was concerned about his son. You don't think you would do the same thing if your son was in the same situation?
Do you know what you get when you do that? You get Brightburn.
No, Jason.
That's the whole point of Brightburn. That's the reason it's the same font as Man of Steel. No, I wouldn't.
Completely different scenario, completely different person.
No, it's not. It is what Superman would be like if Superman was raised the way that he was in Man of Steel.
No, it's a different kid psychologically. I love that movie, by the way, Brightburn.
I do too. I the ending is kind of but I thought it was fantastic up until that point. But
I want to see a sequel to that.
But let's not get crazy, Jonathan.
So, all right, Man of Steel for me is still to this day in my top 5 superhero movies of all time.
Jonathan.
Let me speak. So, the moments in that movie feel so epic. The music is just pounding and large and
I do like Hans Zimmer's score in that movie.
Yes,
I think it's fantastic.
The sequences, man, when he saves the guys on the oil rig before it explodes, everything about that film, the fight scene between Superman and the other Kryptonians in the city, in the smaller town, when they're throwing trains and stuff, it really does a great job of showing what it would be like if Superman had to take on beings of equal power in a suburban type city area. Like it would not be anything pretty about that. Okay. There would be a lot of wait. There would be a lot of casualties, right? There would be nothing he could do about it. There would be nothing that guy could do to stop it. Okay. Because first of all, he's brand new at this whole Superman thing, like literally a couple days into being Superman, and he has to take on the biggest challenge of his career almost.
Yeah.
So I totally get why, they portrayed it in that way. I mean, yeah, sure. He saved a few people. He saved the pilot and the helicopter. He saved a few civilians, what he could do, but there's only so much you can do, Jason, when you're the Undertaker and you're taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Triple H. Okay. There's only so much you can do.
Okay. I will give you that Superman, the way he acted, it makes perfect sense with the way that Jonathan Kent raised him not to ever be special. Don't be special. Well,
he wants him to be special. He said,
no,
son, one day you're going to do great things. But right now, you need to keep this on the
never be special.
Yeah.
The whole point of Jonathan Kent is in the comics, like my favorite Superman comics, like All-Star Superman, even like Man of Tomorrow, some of that. If Superman would have landed anywhere on Earth, he would have been different. But he lands in Kansas and he finds the best of us. Jonathan Kent is supposed to be the best of us. He is not the best of us in that. He is not the best of us in the movie.
Kevin Costner is definitely the best of us, Jason.
No. And the problem is, the lesson needs to be, he needs to die of like a heart attack with cancer or something like that. So the lesson is, yes, no matter how hard you try, you can't save everyone. That needs to be the lesson. Not, don't be special. You gotta sometimes let your dad get hit by a tornado. Don't be special.
It all goes back to, and yeah, I understand what you're saying. You know, Superman probably could have hypothetically been so fast that he swooped around, saved his dad, and swooped back around without anybody noticing that. But it all goes back to his dad's wishes. His dad did not want anyone to find out about that secret. It was that important to his dad, so he didn't want to let his father down. You look, there's some things in that movie that I get why it's a 50-50 movie on Rotten Tomatoes. But when you talked about earlier, you talked about him having to break Zod's neck. I totally get that, Jason. There was not going to be any stopping Zod. It was a scenario where he either has to kill Zod or Zod's going to kill him and the people. So it was like either me or him type of mentality.
I'm really glad that the Earth's yellow sun has different rules for different Kryptonians. It's very important.
What did you say?
I said I'm really glad that Earth's yellow sun has different rules for different Kryptonians.
When you take two beings of equal strength and power, Jason, I could break your neck.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the same situation for two Kryptonians.
I don't think so.
An average Joe couldn't walk up from the street and break Superman's neck, but Superman can break another Kryptonian's neck.
Doesn't make sense.
So I feel like we need to move on from this. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about it forever.
Oh yeah, we'll do it. We should do a Man of Steel episode because
we can. So
we need to do a watch along.
So, as you can see, folks, that's why this is a very, some people love this movie, some people absolutely hate it. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for, Jason? Very
controversial.
Yeah, it's a controversial movie for sure.
Yeah.
So that comes out, and that is literally DC's first attempt, like their first movie for their next first movie to attempt to do a multiverse, right? It comes out. I think it makes pretty good money at the box office. I don't know exactly what it made, but it was good enough for them to be like, okay, so now we can really start, stepping on the gas and make this our own shared multiverse.
Oh,
this is already a year after the first Avengers movie comes out, and they're already trying to play catch up. I feel like that is the single greatest mistake that DC made. They were trying to play catch up with Marvel instead of just doing their own thing. And they could have copied some of the things that Marvel did with success. Like, okay, at that point, after Superman, Man of Steel comes out, you know what? We understand that half the people hate this, half the people like it, but it doesn't matter. We have enough people and we made enough money off of it that we can now start building our multiverse. So next, let's release Wonder Woman. Then we can release a Ben Affleck Batman movie. Then we can release an Ezra Miller Flash movie. And let's introduce these characters individually like Marvel's done. And then we can make it a big deal and have them all team up in one film. But they didn't do that, Jason. What did they do?
Well, I have a theory about what they did. They gave their universe to somebody who doesn't love comic books.
You're referring to Zack Snyder?
Yes, I'm referring to Zack Snyder. I think he likes the images in them. I think he thinks that the characters are too corny. That's the biggest difference for Marvel and DC to me. I feel like Kevin Feige loves the Marvel universe. Like he's reverent
with every fiber in his being.
Yes. I do not feel like Zack Snyder loved the universe. I think he was so determined to deconstruct the DC universe that but we never had it constructed. So,
right.
So yeah, you can make an Injustice movie eventually. You don't need to make an Injustice movie the second movie out of the gate. And I didn't curse there, and that's really difficult for me.
It was all too much at once, too much in the very beginning. Like you said, I mean, start things off slow, you got your controversial Superman movie. Let's introduce these other characters. Then when they team up together in the first Justice League movie, it'll be a big deal because, oh, that's Superman from Man of Steel. And oh, that's Ben Affleck from Batfleck, right? And
Batfleck.
Because man, and also when Batman versus Superman came out, they tried to cram, like you said, too many stories into one movie. You already have one of the best comic book stories of all time, Batman versus Superman. Why would you try to why would you try to muddle that with Wonder Woman and Lex Luthor? Oh, and let's throw in the death of Superman at the end of the movie.
Also Injustice. Don't forget Injustice.
Yeah, there's Injustice elements in the dream sequences. Just do Batman versus Superman. That's all you need.
Also, don't make Batman and Superman pretty much the same character. Like, they're both so mopey. Like, Superman can fly. Why are you sad all the time?
Probably because he had to break Zod's neck, Jason.
That's probably part of it. Probably because his dad was like, never be special. Don't be special.
So this is kind of where we're at. We're getting into 2016. Yep. Marvel's still going uphill at this point. I think around the same time you have Civil War that comes out, which is just an absolutely phenomenal movie.
I would make an argument that DC had an opportunity to catch up because Marvel Phase 2 is not very strong. Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, now Winter Soldier is fantastic. And it's
and Guardians of the Galaxy?
Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's after Ultron, isn't it?
No, that was before Age of Ultron.
I think Ultron is good. There are parts about Ultron that I love. Yeah, but it's a mess. I've always said that Ultron is a love letter to comic books. So it talks about a lot of things that it doesn't like. The Avengers not saying symbol, Hawkeye's speech about how like I'm literally here with a bow and arrow. Like it's a lot.
It's a good film, but it's definitely the weakest Avengers movie by far.
I feel like DC could have caught up if they would have given someone who actually liked the characters. I know
the biggest problem for DC is like you also said earlier. You mentioned this. It was almost like watching a movie made by a lot of executives. That's what DC is. It's almost like they don't put one or two people in the creative positions. Like, let's have a Kevin Feige and let's have a director, and let's let Kevin Feige, steer the ship. Yeah, and then the director make all the decisions he wants to make creatively. No, we got to have, this executive suggested that you include Wonder Woman and Batman versus Superman. And this executive also said we need to try to put that death of Superman at the end of the movie.
We got to get that.
Somebody else also mentioned that we could throw in a dream sequence, maybe have the Flash come back and
Can we sell Injustice 3? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and on top of that, on top of Flash coming back, we got to talk about it. There's a far superior Flash on television.
I like the show. It starts to get very repetitive to me after a couple seasons.
We'll put him in the movies. Give him more of a budget.
I definitely am not the biggest Ezra Miller fan, so I get why you're saying that. But I don't think that it would be a good decision to, just to scrap everything that they've done with him already. They already got Jason, they already have the Flashpoint movie coming out.
I've been hearing about this Flashpoint movie for 14 years, it seems like.
Well, it's coming now. It's happening. They're already filming
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Michael Keaton's in it, Jason.
Yeah, I did hear that. I'm very excited to see Keaton back, but how many times have they had directors for this Flash movie that just got fired or just was like, I ain't doing this? Like,
Several times.
it's a cluster
Yeah.
pump.
So DC right now. So I feel like we can transition to modern times now. I mean,
yeah,
the story is obvious, like Marvel continued to build and build. And basically, after they had released 23 films, those 23 films averaged $1 billion per film, which is just absolutely bananas.
well,
right?
They grew with us. Like, I like, I can track my life through Marvel. Like in 2008, I was here. Like, I was a single guy, and then all the way up until this last movie, to Black Widow, I took my daughter to see it. So it's kind of like this weird, like, we kind of all grew up with Marvel because we cared about those characters. Like, we didn't have somebody being like, I know this is going to turn into, this seems like it's turning into a crap on DC thing, but like, I remember there's a scene in Batman v Superman where Superman's talking to his mom, Martha, very important name. And Martha's like, save them all or don't, screw them. They don't deserve you. And I'm like, what kid is going to get excited about Superman? Like, Superman's going to get sad a lot. Maybe he'll sit in a courtroom and it'll blow up. Superman has to be a Boy Scout. He does. The same way Captain America has to be the hope of the Avengers team. He's the shining.
That's what that stands for, Jason, is hope?
Hope?
Yeah.
If that's hope, if that's Zack Snyder's version of hope, no wonder every one of his movies looked like he drug it through dirt.
Did you not like the Snyder Cut better of Justice League?
The 4-hour Snyder Cut?
Yep.
I mean, it was a coherent story, question mark? It was better than, I will give you, it was better than whatever that cut that got released in the theater.
Yeah.
I want
the
the
original
cut
Justice
where
League.
Joker's tattoos got removed. Like, I want to see that cut.
That's odd too, if you think about it, because when he puts the makeup on, shouldn't that cover up his tattoos anyway?
Unless he just didn't really get tattoos and they were fake face tattoos, which makes him kind of, soft.
Look, okay, let's talk about Jared Leto just for a little bit. We're not going to go crazy on this, but Jared Leto's interpretation, I respected it. I thought it was different, unique. He didn't try to copy Heath Ledger's Joker, which was what I was
kind of. He did not. I will give you that.
And it was almost like if you took a modern day psychotic crime lord,
ICP, gathering, juggalo,
and it was the Joker.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
You had a little bit too much Fago.
I didn't hate his interpretation of the Joker.
Listen to Boogie Woogie one too many times.
Suicide Squad, the original Suicide Squad before the new one comes out, was a terrible film.
Yeah, it's awful.
And maybe the Joker didn't belong in that movie. Or if you're going to put him in the film, he needs to be the ultimate bad guy. You don't need to have the Enchantress.
Or Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple as the main villain.
Yeah. So
also, the worst thing that DC did. Let me. Man, I'm gonna make so many friends on your show. The worst thing that DC did was start people being like, well, we need to see the director's cut of these movies to know. Like, they're really good. It's just the director's cut.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you about DC and Warner Brothers?
It means that you can't make a good film.
No, it means that they're meddling too much, Jason.
I do agree with that too.
They're not letting the directors put their vision out there. It's by the time
they're picking terrible directors. That's also part of it. The reason they're having to edit these guys' visions, quote unquote, It's because their visions are garbage. Like, I mean, no lie, like, and I know this is going to catch some blowback. Like, yes, as a 33-year-old adult male, I watch these Marvel movies. Also, there needs to be a way for my 5-year-old daughter to be able to watch them. Like, I shouldn't have to be like, oh, I can't take you to see Batman. I'm sorry.
What about Deadpool though? Wouldn't you agree that Deadpool, a movie like that, needs to be R?
Deadpool's not a kid's movie.
Yeah.
He's not a kid's superhero. Batman is a kid's superhero. What?
Well, you know, and that kind of goes back like another thing, Wolverine. I could totally get why they released the Logan movie, which is
I agree with that.
Phenomenal movie.
Masterpiece. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do have other, like, I'm okay with you doing a rated R Batman movie. Well, maybe not Batman, because I think Batman is too important to kids. Like, a kid sees Batman and he's just like, that's Batman. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No kid is going to see Deadpool and be like, that's Deadpool.
Some kids like Deadpool.
Can I say that when me and Haley went to go see Deadpool, there was a 5-year-old kid in front of us, and like his parents brought him. It was very strange. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this weird scene, and I'm thinking, there's this kid here. Like, there's this 5-year-old kid here. Like, he's dressed like Deadpool. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. Well, most parents probably didn't know, because at that time
it was rated R.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they told him at the theater, like, hey, you know, by the way, this movie's rated R. There's a lot of blood, violence, curse words. It's pretty bad. Oh, it's fine. Billy will be fine.
It's fine.
So it looks
he's
like
a
you
big
froze
fan.
up there, Jason. Looks like Iceman got your computer. Okay, you're back.
I'm back.
Yep.
I'm moving. I said too much about the Snyder Cut, man. The DC trolls are after me.
Just to let everyone know, I do not hate the DC universe. Okay, there's a lot of
Batman's
decisions.
my favorite superhero.
Yeah, I love Batman and Superman. I grew up on those two. When I was a kid, I grew up watching the ultra cheesy Superman movies where he could literally rebuild brick walls with his eyeballs, and I love those movies.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you talking about Quest for Peace?
Yeah, I'm talking about Quest for Peace. Believe it or not, that's the one that I watched more when I was growing up than any of the others, which is unfortunate.
I believe that, Jonathan. I knew you growing up.
But hey, for its time, you know, even though it's super cheesy now, when Nuclear Man and Superman fought, that was, for me, when I was a kid. Are you kidding me? So I want to see nothing but good things from DC. I think it's better for the industry as a whole when both are releasing really, really good products. Mm-hmm. And it only helps Marvel when DC does well and vice versa. So I think that DC could do better. I think they are going to start putting out better films, because I've heard things that hint that creatively they're going in a different direction now. I think that Walter Hamada is the guy that's kind of in that position, you know? So we'll see. Hey, Flashpoint is going to be our first. Is that the first? Well, Suicide Squad comes out next in literally a couple weeks.
I love Shazam. I thought Shazam was good.
Yeah.
I liked Aquaman.
I didn't Aquaman. I absolutely love that movie.
I didn't like the Pitbull music, but, you know, Pitbull's covered Toto. But, you know, what can you do?
Yeah. Yeah, Aquaman.
You froze again, Jonathan.
I don't know if it was me or
Speak
you.
Speak to me, baby.
So, Aquaman, great film.
Shazam, it could have been like me. I mean,
the first Wonder Woman movie, great movie. There's a lot of good things that DC has to offer, you know, but the problem is, you know, they keep putting out these stinkers too, like Birds of Prey, terrible movie. Wonder Woman 2. So if
I took my kid to see that movie, she liked it. But, you know.
Yeah, hey, it's not awful, but it's pretty bad, especially
it's not as bad as Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was
bad. It's pretty bad.
I hated it.
Yep. So hey, maybe DC can turn things around, Jason.
I hope so.
Yeah, with Flashpoint, that is a potentially epic movie we have coming up on our hands.
Could be. You know, it'd be better if Grant Gustin was Flash, but you know.
So hopefully things get better for the DC universe. We'll see. But as of now, Marvel's still putting out bangers. Black Widow wasn't necessarily a banger, I would say, but it's probably it's way better than Birds of Prey.
I had to explain to my kid what a child soldier was, so thank you for that, Marvel. But other than that, yeah, it was all right.
Yep. Well, Jason, I appreciate you joining me today. It's been a fun discussion. And like we said, hopefully DC can turn things around. Marvel, it looks like they're still onwards and upwards.
I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, even though Marvel recently, the Disney Plus shows have been good, but to me, they could have been better. You know, that standard that they set before is starting to seems like it's going down a bit. So hopefully things will continue to go onward and upward with
once the movies start like hitting the theater again, I think things are going to get a lot better.
Yeah, Marvel has like what, 5 movies coming out this year?
Shang-Chi. I'm a terrible fan. What else?
Eternals.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And there's one more, I think, too.
Guardians 3.
That's not until way down the road.
Oh, that's sad. That makes me sad. I'd like to see Guardians 3 tomorrow.
Anyway, thanks very much for joining us. And folks, we'll see you next week.